Good afternoon. It is Friday, thank God. And it is October 2nd. And we only have 1 month to go before the election. And what a week this has been. Um, let's start at the beginning, I guess, of the week. Uh, there's so many things to go over. First, the debate. Um, the debate was an unbelievable disaster. I tried to watch it live. I did for almost an hour. I just couldn't take it anymore after that. But I did watch the entire thing later on. Um, in a way, it wasn't a disaster, and in a way, it was predictable. We all knew it was going to be something the way it was, and we all knew that Trump would come out being uh, obnoxious and a liar and a criminal. And the taxes that came out recently, is that a surprise? You know what? To people who live in New York and New Jersey, it's not a surprise because we've seen this criminal's record his entire life of going bankrupt year after year after year, time after time, messing with the people of New Jersey, their jobs, and New York, and people screwing the people in New York City out of their taxes. I mean, this is what he does to try to stay afloat. That's who he is. And just by mistake, somewhere along the line, um, somebody put him on TV. But he's really just a two-bit criminal. That's all he is. And so was the debate a surprise? No. Biden, agree or disagree with him on policy, I think it's a universal thought that, or outlook, in that Joe Biden is a decent human being and a caring human being, and has done things wrong in his own way concerning policy, maybe most of his life, but he is absolutely no Donald Trump. I wish we had Robert Kennedy sitting there instead of Joe Biden, but that's who we have. So it is what it is. So it's not a disaster, and it wasn't a surprise. It was a service to the people of this country and a reminder just what reality is. And the reality is that Donald Trump is a disaster. And reelecting him, the Republican Party, to the Senate would be an unbelievable disaster. That would be the disaster. So the debate itself was a service to the people of this country. And now that it's just been announced earlier, late last night, that Trump has the virus, which I guess some of us can believe and some of us don't believe. But for whatever reason, they announce he has a virus. Let's say he's got it. So, okay. He's going to have to do like I did because I had the virus. And he's going to have to do what I did and millions of other people have done, which is sit at home and quarantine yourself and wait to see what this disease is going to do to your body. I don't even wish Trump, the worst results. But he caused bad results and deaths to millions of people, to tens of thousands of people because of his non-policy nationwide, because of his bumbling idiocy. And his supporters may not like to hear it, but you know what? It's pretty much time you get out of your Neanderthal bubble, and it's time to grow up and get back into reality and life. Uh, that's where we are. So that debate and Trump getting the virus is probably the two biggest wake up calls of all time. To return back to the reality and the hard work of governing this country and the people in it and all of the families who live in this country who desperately need the United States federal government to lend a hand to move us forward again and to get us moving forward in an enormous amount of policies across the board. And really, that is where we should be now. No more looking back and no more negativity. It is now time to move ahead, move forward with policies of today and tomorrow that is going to make this country and this world a success. No more looking back. The past is over. What's happening presently will soon be over, and it is time to move forward now and to get results, move policy ahead, change policy to the 21st century, and get things moving again. Um, and on that note, the very first thing that really needs to happen in a brand new administration, a Biden Democratic administration, whether it's going to happen or not, it's up to the people of this country. Once they elect Joe Biden, it is up to them to push the Democratic Party as far left as possible. And that means moving policy of, uh, of fossil fuel engines to be ended. 2 years. No more fossil fuel engines. No more engines that require oil. Period. Can be done, must be done. Millions of jobs to be had. Millions of jobs. Write the tax code for it, put the incentives in, and the tax breaks in to those companies, those car companies that will create cars that are green energy cars, electric, whatever, and move forward. It will clean the environment, help clean the environment, and get us off of the get out of the era of oil and out of oil wars. We won't need it anymore, and that is the end of oil. And oil's price will drop to zero. And countries like Saudi Arabia and others will have to learn to trade in something else other than oil. And that's the first thing that we need to do. The second thing we need to do, or actually, there's so many things that need to do, but the next thing that is going to help our world, help our environment, help our welfare is single payer health care. Finally, total and complete. From top to bottom, our healthcare system is corrupt. It is full of it's cancerous corruption from top to bottom on every level. And I wouldn't listen to anybody that's involved in it. It's completely corrupt. It needs to be a single payer healthcare plan. That is it. End of story. 330 million Americans are in it, will be in it. And when you wake up in the morning, if you need health services, you get them. Instead of going, oh my God, the insurance, I'm at, my life is at, on a phone call begging the begging the healthcare system, my insurance company, to approve some medicine. 15 years ago or so, I was on the phone with some idiotic insurance company that was in Texas begging to have a pill changed from one that no longer worked to something that I needed. And I had to go in the bank that I was working at the time. It was about the seventh largest bank in the United States at the time, one of the largest in the world at the time. And I had to go to the number 3 person in North America in my corporation to get the okay. That's insane. That is healthcare for slaves, and the slaves being the workers of this country. No matter what color you are, you're a slave to your healthcare, to the insurance companies, and that's barbaric. It's barbaric. Nothing to do with Republican, nothing to do with Democrat. The present healthcare system is barbaric, and it's for it holds the workers of this country as slaves, and the insurance companies get a cut of what your healthcare dollars, your healthcare dollars go. Do you know how imbecilic that is? And for the healthcare system to last this long with that kind of system, it's criminal, and there should be hundreds, if not thousands, of people going to jail in the healthcare system and in Congress and in the Senate and in every other part of the government that supports this idiocy and and congressional bills that support the structure of corruption. And they're still there. And actually, that's one of the large uh, industries that are corrupting this country today as we speak. So that's number 2, is the healthcare system. Number 3 is returning back to the environment. Plastics. Plastics they have to stop being produced. That may or may not be a little harder to do over maybe a longer period of time, like a few months or a year, because guess what? It's not hard. You can get rid of plastics tomorrow. You know why? We lived in a world without plastics through the 50s and through the 60s, mostly, and even into the 70s. And there are lots of ways to hold products in a grocery store, not in plastic. It's called glass. And there's lots of sand in the world. It's almost, talk about a resource that is almost endless. It's called sand. So plastic must go, because otherwise, again, we're just polluting our oceans. And there must be policies made that within the next 1 to 2 years, I'll give it more than a few months, in the next 1 or 2 years, not 20 years, not 30 years, not 9 years, but within the next 1 or 2 years, plastics should be outlawed as deeply as it can go, starting at 90% of all plastic. Gone. Within a year, gone. No debate. There's no debate. There is no debate. Debating is corruption. The debate on this is corruption. The debate, it sends us into, let's do it 20 years from now. Meanwhile, for the next 20 years, our oceans will be even more destroyed, and our food chain will be even more destroyed. It's going to take 20 or 30 years or 40 years or 50 years to clean as much of the plastic as possible off of this planet. So that's number 3. The next thing I would do is center on the Constitution and start to uh, change, create amendments to the Constitution that will, as humanly possible, because nothing that humans do lasts forever. Nothing. I mean, the Roman columns, some of them have lasted 3,000 years or so, and some things in China have lasted a while, and there are some things, the paintings in the caves in France have lasted 30 or 40,000 years. But most things don't last that long, and so as humanly possible, there has to be a finality and a strengthening of voting rights in this country, of an investment in our political system, which means changing the laws, amending the Constitution so that everybody over the age of 18 or 17 can vote. Everybody, unless you're medically impaired mentally. Everybody else, felons, etc., should be able to have the right to vote. I don't care. You have the right to vote. That's it. You're born, you're 17 years old, you're old enough to die in a war, you're old enough to pay taxes. Guess what? You have the right to vote. End of story. No more slavery to the poor, no more slavery to people of color, no more slavery to American Indians, no more slavery to people who are being pushed aside by the elite right now in this country, and they've been doing it for 300, 400 years, and it's as bad today as it's ever been, worse than the Civil War, where they are pushing millions of people off the roll. Of course, most of them African American or anybody else who threatens them with a Democratic vote or any vote. It doesn't even matter. They push people off, and again, it's no secret. So that's what has to happen: is the protection of our democracy, of the expansion of the vote and the power of the vote. Every single person um, should be voting. Still, in this election, we're only going to get probably 75 million voters for Biden, maybe probably 75 million or so. 65 million for Trump, I'm estimating. I think it's going to be about a 10 million vote win for Biden. So 75, 65, it's 140 million voters. There should be 250 million voters. How it's only 150, 140 million when nearly 300 million people are eligible is insane. It's not right, and there's millions of people who've been pushed off. Fraud doesn't exist. In voting, it doesn't exist. It simply is a lie. There was a study done over a long period of time, about 11 million voters during the decade of 2000, 2010. And they found that something like out of millions and millions of ballots, something like 6 or 7 people voted twice. And the reason why they did, like 5 of the 6 or 7, was because they were older people who lived in New York and went to Florida in the winter. There is no fraud. Fraud is a Republican made up thing so that they can create laws that will stop people from voting. That's no secret. That's what happens. That's what's been happening in front of your face. It is time for people to wake up and stop watching other crap and get involved in their political system. And being on the internet is not good enough. You have to pick up the phone, and call your senator or congressman. You have to run for office. You have to get out and actually use your legs and protest. Protest is an American right. It is part of the Constitution. And if you don't use it, you do lose it. So you better use it, and you better use it this year, this week, today. So either you pick up the phone or you use your legs and get off the internet, or if you're going to be on the internet, do something constructive. The signing stuff is terrific, but you have to do more than that. You have to get involved. You have to write letters to the editor. I think in my lifetime, I've written somewhere between 200 and 300 letters. I still have most of them up on a wall. And I started writing back in 1975 is when I started to write letters to the editor. I was in college, and my very first letter was about the non-taxation of big corporations in the state of New Jersey, which would result in hurting the higher education and the university system in New Jersey, and it would transfer the burden of going to college in New Jersey more towards the middle and lower classes. And that's exactly what happened. In my junior or senior year, they raised the tuition in New Jersey by 50%. Meanwhile, they're cutting the taxes of all the big corporations in New Jersey. That's what I wrote about first in 1975. So, sometimes you get results, sometimes you don't, but you have to get your voice out there. Your voice, no matter who you are, whether you scrub and clean people's homes, or whether you're the president and CEO of a company, you're equal under the law. And you're not equal if you don't use your rights. Get involved. Those people who make $8 an hour, guess what? Your voice, if you use it, will be heard. If I can do it, you can do it. I've run for office. I've held office. So you have to be involved. So that's it basically for today. There's lots more things to do. Foreign affairs, like I mentioned last week, it's not. It isn't even being talked about, and that is actually that is a gigantic part of our country. Is you've got to cut the military spending of this country from nearly $1 trillion a year to about 250 billion a year. You would take 700 billion plus and put it back in and invest it into the people of this country. You don't have to raise taxes on the poor or the middle class at all to find trillions of dollars. You don't have to raise the tax. When they ask, oh, it's too expensive. No, it's not. The money is being spent on stuff that we don't need. It needs to be spent on you and me because that's our taxes. And it's time that the Republicans, to a great extent, and Democrats to another extent, it's time that both parties start investing in this country. And that's another thing for the next show. The two-party system, as it stands right now, must end. It has to end. This election must be the end of that two-party system. These two parties created the tax system we have. And for people like Trump, who even partially legally did his taxes, even maybe 20% of it is legal, let's say, whatever, whether it's 1% or 90% of it is legal. It is a crime against our society that people making anything over two or $300,000. Above that, the taxation, the tax rates should be incredibly progressive and should go right up to 30 to 40 to 50 to 60 to 70%. And once you reach a certain billion, it should be 90% taxation. Now, if you feel bad about that, that's your problem. But we have a society that we have to live in, and we have a society that needs to work. And the only way it gets to work is to invest our tax dollars back into where we live. Again, does that sound Democrat or Republican to you? It is not. It's not liberal. It's not conservative. It's human. It is human to reinvest, to invest the money that we pull together as a society and put it into our society. And if you have a problem with that, move to Mars or Venus or Pluto, okay? Because that has nothing to do with party. It doesn't have anything with the right or the left. It has to do with living and breathing. And that's it, okay? Most of this stuff has nothing to do with party. You know, you've been propagandized. The American people have been propagandized since Ronald Reagan's time. And you've been propagandized into not being able to think, that being ripped off is just normal, that watching some crap TV every single night of your entire life is what life's about. And it's not. You have to be involved in the world we live in. And that's how things get done. That's it for now. We'll talk to you later on. Have a nice evening. Later.